Ukraine hammers Russian airbase with missiles carrying cluster munitions.
Here's a summary of the article.
Ukraine's armed forces launched a mass long-range missile strike on Monday evening that saturated a Russian military base deep behind the front lines with cluster munitions, initiating a blaze that could be seen and heard dozens of kilometers away, along with hundreds of smaller fires. Local sources said Russian air defenses fired on the incoming weapons but failed to stop many. According to open sources, Ukraine only fields two major weapon systems capable of delivering cluster munitions at that range, the US-made ATACMS missile and the Soviet-era Tochka-U missile. Following a 4-month total halt to U.S. arms deliveries because of congressional infighting, Ukraine received renewed transfers of ATACMS missiles in late April. The end of the U.S. embargo has seen Kyiv energetically launching ATACMS against 9 formerly out-of-range Russian targets in the occupied Crimea region, including Russian Air Force bases and aircraft, Russian Navy warships, and high-tech Russian anti-missile systems, as well as used ATACMS to hit a Luhansk oil refinery twice. Ukraine first received M42 rockets in October 2022 and used them for more than a year with good effect, but their maximum 80-kilometer range along with improved Russian jamming has reportedly made the M42 almost ineffective against current Russian defenses. The 2023 attack against the Luhansk airbase caught at least 2 squadrons of Russian helicopters on the ground, destroying at least 6 as subsequent satellite images showed.
This post received a score of 6,900. With an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Man, the Russian stooge in the article complaining about cluster munitions is really the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, hasn't Russia been using cluster munitions in Ukraine for most of the war?
Yes, and on civilian population centers, whereas Ukraine used them on a military airfield.
And note, they're particularly, and legitimately, useful for airfields, where they blow a bunch of smaller craters in the runways, making repair much harder than single, larger holes. So it's not just cruelty to use them there.
Fuck Putin.
Slava Ukraine.
Heroium Slava.
Cover those runways in potholes, yeah.
It takes a lot to make a runway unusable. That shit is like a couple feet deep.
No, it doesn't. Enough debris alone will fuck up operations for quite a bit of time. Potholes in the runway will absolutely keep 3rd, 4th gen fighters from taking off on top of that.
I think clearing and repaving is pretty quick, all things considered. The best part of hitting these bases is hitting the planes themselves as well as radar and control towers, I think.
Pull a play from the Russians. Hit it once. Wait for the repair crews and then hit it twice as hard.
The report Russia failed to stop them. This explains why Ukraine knocked out a tracking facility within the last 2 days. To blind them.
This is also the result of the US renewing its military aid and it finally arriving on the front lines. I remember there were so many people saying it wouldn't make a difference and that the war was already lost. I think we're seeing these people were wrong.
Finally, a headline where, hammers? Seems appropriate.
Ukraine destroys Russian airfield with facts and logic and cluster bombs.
Keep it up and stay strong, Ukraine. The difference between Russia and Ukraine in use of cluster munitions. Russia, terror weapons to harm Ukrainian civilians. Ukraine, tactical weapons to impede Russian military personnel. If you gotta use it for military target.
My understanding is the main reason cluster bombs are illegal for most countries is they tend to leave unexploded ordnance that can kill, maim civilians. Therefore, the biggest difference is that, including this strike, Ukraine was using them within their own borders, thus negating the biggest criticism. They are not endangering another country's civilians, they are certainly using them where needed. Unexploded ordnance effectively become defensive mines, and Ukraine is extremely incentivized to be involved in the cleanup once they are able because it is its own population at risk in terms of civilians.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.